So one thing you may not know about me is that I have a terrible memory. In college, I remember I would remember the theories and the rules behind getting to an equation so I could derive it during the test because there was just no way that I would remember the equation. And as I've gotten older, it's gotten a lot worse. Partially because I'm older, but also because I'm a lot busier now. So I make sure to surround myself with people that are brilliant-minded and also very detail-oriented to help me with this weakness of mine. The other thing that I do is I have a million ways of taking notes. I have 4 main ways of taking notes that I use depending on the situation. So each of these I would cycle throughout like the life cycle of my projects or programs, depending on the phase of the project and the needs of my brain, essentially. So let me walk you through the 4 ways that I take notes. So I'm going to go through how I take digital notes. I use OneNote. Basically because my company supplies it, and so I've gotten really used to using OneNote. I really like it. It's really dynamic. I can attach files, I can attach even emails and spreadsheets. I can embed spreadsheets, snapshots of pictures of things that I want to keep on my, digital notes. I'm sure there's a lot of other softwares out there that are just as good. OneNote is just the one that I've been using forever and the one that I really like. So I'm going to do a screen recording of how I use my OneNote and show you exactly how I organize my pages to keep notes throughout the days and the weeks. I'm obviously not going to share my actual notebook because I would get fired. So I've made a copy, stripped it out of all of its information, and only left the formatting, just to give you an idea of how I use my OneNote. So this is my OneNote. I am zooming out so you can see the full picture as a whole. I'll zoom in and talk about each of these little boxes and how I use them. So this first box right here is really where I do, let me zoom in, is really where I do all of my planning, action items, things that I need to monitor, other items that I want to keep track of. And it's also where I put my goals, my weekly goals. So every single week, I relook at this every Monday morning, or sometimes I do it Friday night because I really like doing it Friday night to be able to brain dump and leave everything at work. Any action items that I've done that week, I'll check it off and I'll delete it, and I'll clean up all my action items and I'll set them based on priorities and which ones should go first. I also put down my week's goals. I try to only do 2 or 3 things on here. There's a lot of goals. There's a lot of objectives that we have to get through, obviously, but I try to put those in my action items. My weekly goals are really the thing you have to get done. If you do not do anything else during the week, these are the 2 things that you need to do. So I usually set my weekly goals like that. And then I'll have my monitor status. So as a group lead or a unit lead or a project manager, whatever you are, you usually have things that you're monitoring to make sure that they happen. So it could be a deliverable. It could be a strategy that somebody's working on. It could be, weekly agendas and weekly progress reports that you have to make sure get out the door. So I like to put those at the bottom. They're not action items. They're just things to remind myself you got to get those out the door. And then I have like other things at the bottom, other items, quote unquote, other items, things that I wish I could get to. They're not crucial. They're not really action items because there's no real action for me to do. They're just things that I wish I had time to do. For example, I don't know, maybe there's a document or a procedure that I really wanted to know. It's not part of my unit. It's not something that I need to make sure I get done, but I just wanted to read it so I could understand something more high level, kind of like self-learning. So I usually put that stuff in the other items so that if I ever do have some downtime, I can go and pick something down there and get it done. The other thing that I like to do in the red box, and I know this is really weird. I think my first video that I ever made on YouTube, I talked about how I like to have my own little calendar in physical notebook or physical planner. And I got a lot of comments of, why would you do this? It's just, you're doing it again. It's already in your Outlook calendar or your Google calendar or whatever it is. I like to do it because for whatever reason, it helps me absorb how I'm going to plan my day and really get me ready for the day. Outlook calendar, Google calendars, I feel like those are being controlled by somebody else, right? Somebody put a meeting on your calendar. There's a corporate meeting that you have to go to. There's tentative meetings on there that just in case you do have time, you can attend. things like that are just kind of out of your control after a certain point. And I also don't want to add things to that calendar that I'm just planning for my day. So for example, if I'm planning to spend an hour on reviewing a document, I could block those times on my calendar to make sure that I have that hour, but I don't really want to add all of that detail to my calendar because I also eventually cross out a lot of these things or I don't get to them. This is just me planning my day out with myself. And it would not be efficient to use my Outlook calendar or my Google Calendar for that stuff. So Monday morning, Friday night, whenever you decide to do this, I usually add my meetings to this. And then once I know my meetings, which I usually bold, but this week I forgot to bold. So let's do, I don't know, something like this so you can kind of tell what I mean. And then the ones that are really crucial, that are workshops that we've, it's a big presentation or something like that, I'll bold and red out. And so then I can tell, okay, look at all the time I have. Now can I look at my action items and can I schedule them when I'm actually going to get these done? That's why I like to put this little calendar at the top. It's almost like planning myself out for the week. So that's what's in this red box. Really your goals, action items, planning out my week on when I'm going to do those action items. And then at the bottom here, I like to have this little box where I call it conversations with my boss, because this is where I document the conversations that I have with my boss when, they're not scheduled. You don't always schedule a meeting with your boss. And when you have those random conversations, he calls you up and he's thinking about those high level goals that you want to hit or plan out, or, some action that now requires your attention. And so I usually have a box just purely for conversations with my boss. Obviously, he's the one that I want to make sure that I keep happy. It could also be conversations with your clients, whatever works for you. So that's that first box. Second box here is a status of your projects. Like I said, I have a terrible, terrible memory, and I like to have somewhere readily available where I can see, oh, that project or that section within that project, here's the status. They're working on this and it's due this day. It doesn't have to be some big long narrative. It can be very, very short. Working on report for client, draft due on X date, something that kind of triggers your memory to know exactly where the project is in their schedule. It also helps me for when I get random questions of, hey, Carla, do you know when that project is going to go into review or whatever it is? I'll be able to be like, I don't remember, but give me 1 second. And I always have this unit status or this status box here so that I can quickly go back to, okay, now I remember when this segment is going into review. Now I remember what this segment is doing right now and what are the next steps for each. It also includes things like my project control stuff, when we're doing deliverables for like a report, things maybe we're working on a workshop or a memo. It keeps things organized by status. It keeps things organized and helps me have one little location where I could find the status of things. So that's usually what I have here on this side. And then I normally have a little snapshot. I don't know, maybe I should zoom in. So I'll have like a little snapshot. I think I've walked through how I do schedules for my own team. So I'll usually have a little snapshot of the schedule up here, and I'll update it every week or every other week, depending on how fast we're going. I don't know about you guys, but for me, if I can't get to a file quickly, it's really frustrating and it almost makes it not worth it to go find that file. That's why I like to have little snapshots of these things. Sometimes I'll do the link instead of a snapshot. That way I can just click on it and it'll take me straight to that file. It just depends on the situation. And then over here, I had to get rid of these pictures, but I wanted you to know what I put on the side here. It'll obviously be very different for everybody and their, work and their industry. But for me, I always like to have things that I often reach for on the side of my weekly notes. So for me, I need to know my org chart constantly. My team is huge and it is growing. So I constantly need to know the org chart and who's in what discipline unit and how much FTE they have, and, just really have that somewhere where I could just grab and look at it when I'm in a conversation. The other thing that I really like to have is exhibits of the project that you're in. A lot of my projects are linear, so a roadway, a track, a bicycle trail, things like that. And so I like to have an exhibit of the entire project to orient myself during conversations. Other stuff I like to keep on the side here is project control stuff. Obviously, I have to do a lot of project controls as a lead. So, I usually need my budget numbers, my cost work breakdown structure here. So that's what I put in this area, just little snapshots of those so that I have them quickly when I'm having conversations. Last thing, and this is the place where I actually put my personal notes. At the bottom of all of this, usually this gets very long. So this will be, very, very long, and it'll usually match the length of this one. I'm a little OCD, so I make sure it does. And so once those get filled out, I start my actual notes. So down here, this is my area where I put the name of the meeting or the name of the conversation and the person that I'm having with, or it could just be notes on something that I'm doing, right? Something that I'm trying to understand or that I'm reviewing. So I'll put a title, whatever title is appropriate, along with the date, and then I'll just start taking notes. And then I'll insert something above for the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So my actual notes, I was trying to go to the bottom, and it was actually really, really hard to get there. So I continuously add for any new notes that I need to create. And so I end up with a huge, huge long list. I'm on the same projects for several years. So, it'll be notes, years worth of notes. I think the one that I have right now is about a year worth of notes, which is pretty cool. All right. So that is it. I'm going to stop recording. When I take notes in a digital format like OneNote, it's because I'm very comfortable with the project already, or the program. Whatever it is that I'm working on, I've been working on it for a long time, and I'm very comfortable. I've come to almost a steady state kind of time period in that project or that program for myself. So I'm not really in a state of learning for that project. I'm more in a state of just managing and, day-to-day working at that point. That's the only way that digital notes work for me. Otherwise, I need to move on to my physical notebook. So that's the next way that I take notes. Digital notes are really when I'm already very comfortable in a project or program. I'm not on a huge learning curve, although I'm always on a learning curve, but I'm more comfortable with what's going on a project versus when I'm doing physical notebooks. Physical notebooks, and I'll show a picture or something, I use when I'm brand new to a project and I'm on a huge learning curve. It's the only way that I can learn and really absorb what's going on a project. If I didn't do it that way, if I only did digital notes, it would go in through one ear and out the other because I simply cannot absorb information when I'm typing. I have to write something down. I have to use my pen and my pencil and, a piece of paper in order for me to learn. That's just how I learn. So for my physical notebooks, there's multiple ways that I do this, but one of my favorite ways, again, this is already a video and I will link it right here for you guys to check out. But one of my favorite ways is to fold at the beginning of the week the first page of the week. And that one I use to write all of my action items, similar to that red box on my digital notebook. I write out my action items, my goals for the week, other items, steady state items that I have to monitor, things like that. All of that goes in red on the half page at the beginning of the week. I also love to color code my physical notebooks. So again, the action items are in red. And then on my actual notes, very similar to the way that I do it in my digital notebook, where I write the date and then whatever it is, a conversation, a meeting, etc. But in my physical notebook, I actually color code whether it's a formal meeting or it's a conversation with my boss or it's just, my regular notes. I think for my formal meetings, I use blue, and when it's a conversation with my boss, I use green, and then when it's just my regular notes, it's black or something like that. Again, go check out that video because it really goes into detail how I put together my physical notebook. So after that, my next favorite way of taking notes is through an actual binder. So let's get into what that looks like. Okay, so this is one of my newest systems that I am super proud about, which is nothing innovative at all. I just really, really like it. It really helps my scattered brain, my ADD brain, some people would say. It also makes me really happy because, it's packaged so nicely, and it's also super, I don't know, it makes me think of dark academia vibes, which I really like. So I like to do these little tabs on the side here. This is inspired by a TikToker who creates his own notebooks and cuts them out, the little tabs. He's very, very organized, and the way he thinks is just so magical to me. I'll link his TikTok at the bottom here. So it's inspired by him, and each of these tabs has something to do with a project that I'm working on. So you can see the first one says corporate job. Second one is a project I'm doing. Third one is my YouTube channel. And so whenever I don't have a screen or I'm just thinking of ideas for videos and planning out videos, that's where I'll put it. The next one is La Vida Cardita, which, if you don't know, is kind of my art channel on TikTok. And anything that I paint or anything artistic, I'll put it under La Vida Carlita. I also have an Instagram. And then the last one is another one of my projects. Maybe one day I'll talk about those projects, but not today. So today I'm only going to share the YouTube one because I think it's the prettiest one. Let me get to a really good page on how I plan out my videos. So this is how I plan out my videos on my actual binder. These are like my quick ideas, what I really want to talk about, and I set them out in bullet points. And then I transfer them over to either a script or whatever it is that I'm doing. I'll also do things like, creating a roadmap of where I want to go, action items, things like that. So that's what this notebook does. The other thing that I absolutely love about my binder is my physical planner or calendar or whatever you want to call it. So it only has the actual months in it. It doesn't have weeks or anything like that. It has extra pages for to-do lists and stuff. I wish those weren't there, but it was the best I could get on Amazon that I could find that met my needs, which I love very minimalistic planners. And so here I'll write out an idea, I guess this one's nice. So here I'll write out what I actually want to do for that month and the videos that I want to produce for the month. And I'll put them on here and I'll plan them out. A lot of the times I'll scratch a lot of these out because either I got inspired by a different subject and I create a different type of video or, things like that. So I can scratch these out. I do have Notion. I do have, the Google calendars. I have it, all of that. I promise you, I'm not digitally ignorant, but just a physical calendar just makes me so happy. And I love being able to be disconnected from everything and just think and do it on something that's physical. So I love being able to, turn off my phone, turn off my computer, put on, some music in the background and just think or, drink a little cafecito and be outside and write stuff out on something that's physical. So this binder is super proud of this binder. Very, very happy to have moved to this system. It also has this little baggies in the back, which I like. I don't know what I'm going to use them for, but I like them. All right. So last way that I like to take notes in my life is on my phone. I like the application called Floating Notes because it's almost like a Post-it note, but on your phone. And it stays on top of all of your applications. And you can make it bigger to kind of see what the notes that you have put on there, or if you want to add a note, and then you can make it smaller, but you can still see it at the top. And so I like to use that for notes that are on the go, something quick that my husband told me, something quick that I need to remember to transfer over to one of my more formal ways of taking notes, because I'm running around or I'm talking to people without my notebook or my computer on me. So I'm going to do a little screen recording of what that looks like. So welcome to the privacy of my life. This is my screen of my phone. And so here on the right-hand side, you can see the little lavender looking square. And that's the floating note. So it's like posting a Post-it note right on top, and I can move it anywhere I want. And I can make it bigger to see more of what's going on there, and I can make it smaller. So as you can see there, I have 2 quick notes that I took in the morning. I actually took a walking meeting this morning, and so there was an action item that I wanted to take, and so I put it on my floating notes, and I can just click on it, and you can add more notes on there, add note. And then I just hit the check mark and you're done. And then I make it small. Once I get to, an actual notebook or my calendar, my action items, whatever it is, then I'll transfer it over and I'll delete it off of my floating notes. But I really like it. I like that it stays on top of everything, and it helps me because if it's colorful, I know that it's there. I know that I need to look at it. Sometimes I'll even remind myself to message someone back or text someone back that I forgot to text. So I really like that application. All right, let me stop there. I think those are the 4 main ways that I like to take notes in my life. Again, this was more of a mixture between personal notes, life notes, side project notes, and my actual professional notes. I really enjoy seeing how other people take notes for anything in their life, really. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.